Well, we've been tracking storms throughout the day today, and you know what? It has been really busy. We have had multiple tornado warnings. We have had multiple severe thunderstorm warnings. You guys probably just got the EAS alert on your phone too. Dust storm warning now for much of the I-20 corridor, including Midland and Odessa. Now that dust storm warning, you can see our camera already on top of Odessa, actually shaking around just a little bit. But let's look at those current conditions. We're looking at sustained winds at 41 miles per hour. Now these are from those nearby storms as they begin to die down. What happens? Well, you have a lot of winds building up. They're heading up into the upper parts of the atmosphere, and then they come back down as rain. And when the storm actually dies down, where do all the winds go? They come right back down. It picks up a lot of dust in the atmosphere, and we get those dust storm warnings. Humidity values are not that high. This is going to be very dry air, and when we see a lot of that dust beginning to build back up into the atmosphere, or even down near the surface, it's going to help to reduce any of these more thunderstorms from forming across the region. So that's certainly kind of not a terrible way to look at things. You know, would you rather have the dust storms? Would you rather have the hail and the tornado potential? It's kind of a toss-up in all reality because we could really use some rain. Last thing we need is more and more of that dust. Here are those current gusts reported out of Midland, 61 miles per hour. Yikes. Yeah, this is not even a severe thunderstorm warning. We're looking at wind gusts going about as fast as your car on the highway. Yikes. And this is reported out of the Midland International Airport. Areas that have been seeing a lot of that activity: Fort Stockton, 30 mile per hour wind gusts; near Dryden, about 35 mile per hour wind gusts. So here's where we're at right now. Weather warnings. We got severe thunderstorm watch that is in effect for the entire eastern half of the Permian Basin and the Trans-Pecos, all the way down to Del Rio. That's going to be in effect until 11 o'clock tonight due to the potential of some of those storms gaining a lot of strength. We're talking winds, we're talking hail, and we're talking just severe risks in every single scenario. Here's where we're at right now in terms of active radar. We do have a lot of activity mainly down to the south with that same storm system that's been right over top of Fort Stockton. Let me zoom in on it for you, get you a better idea. We are looking at two different severe thunderstorm warnings. The storm itself looks to be trying to break up in terms of hail potential, so that's certainly some good news, but we have seen everything from about 2-inch hail to about 70 mile per hour wind gusts. I can actually get you the full breakdown of what we're expecting within these storms. The one where the arrow is on that says until 7:45, we're actually looking at 70 mile per hour wind gusts and ping pong sized hail. Ping pong sized hail is about 1.5 inches in diameter, so not as bad as 2-inch diameter. That's about the size of a tennis ball. Still not the most ideal situation. The one along 285, this one is warned for 70 mile per hour wind gusts as well as ping pong sized hail. Radar indicated a lot of this stuff is going to stay over very rural areas of Pecos County, so that's certainly some good news and what we can really hope for. Lots of the lightning associated with this stuff has kind of fallen apart, so that's a good start. But I'm also kind of looking just a little bit more, let me pause this for you real quick, out toward Big Lake and Rankin. Notice the area I'm highlighting? That is a decent squall line. It's moving its way farther and farther out to the east as the evening progresses. Non-severe, not looking at any kind of hail core, but we're looking at some very heavy precipitation, anything from 2 to 4 inches per hour within those storms. So you might see some localized flash flooding, possibly along the lines of, hey, you might see a little bit more of those puddles on the roadways that could impact your driving. Just take it slow if you're out on the roads. Personally, I would not be on the roads unless I absolutely needed to be. But let's go ahead and move farther up to the north. That's where we're seeing that activity beginning to form into the northern ends of Ector County, Midland County, and even out into Andrews County. So certainly some strong winds associated with that. Let me pause that, show you what I got on radar. Here's that storm. Severe thunderstorm warning until 7:15. Nothing too bad. It is trying to push its way into Andrews. I am looking at 60 mile per hour wind gusts and half-dollar sized hail, about 1.25 inches in diameter. And then we do have that dust storm warning. Now, in effect, we're looking at near zero visibility, damaging winds in excess of 60 miles an hour from trained weather spotters. Not surprising considering that storm itself trying to push its way into Andrews. Andrews, or is already in Andrews County, but moving toward the city of Andrews, is having that outflow boundary. Those outflow boundaries tend to actually spark up a few more of those thunderstorms, but if there's enough dust in the atmosphere, you're not going to see that as a large-scale impact. Honestly, this is a good best case scenario. Weather is going to remain active throughout this evening. It should begin to die down as the sun goes down. Once temperatures drop down, there's not a lot of fuel for these thunderstorms, and there's not a whole lot of stuff to really fuel a lot of the activity across the area. Tuesday, that's today. Here we go. Slight risk. It has been extended all the way out towards San Angelo and even Abilene. So we are looking at that potential for more storms to continue popping up and to stay on the severe side. The biggest threats with that level 2 slight risk going to be wind and hail. We're about 15%. As a matter of fact, the latest discussion report from the National Weather Service earlier today was showing, hey, if we see anything, we could see tornadic activity, probably a high-end EF1 up to about 95 mile per hour winds within that tornado. If we see the tornadoes, which we did see 2 warnings, I did not see anything on the ground, but it's still a little bit too early to tell. National Weather Service will be sending out people to do damage survey to see if we can get a rating on it later on. Wind gusts anywhere between about 65 to 80 miles per hour, and we're also looking at that hail threat anywhere from 1.5 inches to about 2.5 inches, which is honestly right on par with what we've been seeing. All right, here we go. Going into tonight, it's going to calm down. Take a nice deep breath. Don't need to worry about this for too long. 62 degrees. It's a little bit above average. That makes sense. You have a lot of that cloud cover lingering around. We still have that wind from the southeast, 15 to 20 miles an hour. That's going to be fueling, well, actually a lot of that thunderstorm development, pulling in plenty of moisture from the Gulf, and we're going to see that leftover rain chance. That's why I put about 10% coverage for those overnight hours. Heading out the door tomorrow, it's going to be a little humid in the early part of the morning, similar to what we saw this morning. As a matter of fact, it means, hey, the atmosphere is prime, it's ready. There's a little bit of instability because of that nearby system passing through, and then we're going to have that same threat of those pop-up showers and thunderstorms, about 30% coverage. They're going to be very isolated in nature, and by that I mean I can't tell you who is going to get it and when, because a lot of the models, they're just not going to hold completely true, especially when it comes to small scale storms. If it's a large scale, big squall line, I can tell you exactly who's going to get it and where. But with this stuff, it's going to pop up and it's going to move in one direction, it's going to move in another direction, and then it's going to die out. Or it could stay strong and form another line of storms. That's the hard part when it comes to predicting a lot of the weather. From what I've been seeing out here lately, a lot of this stuff is likely going to stay near Fort Stockton, Ira Ann, and Big Lake and not necessarily impact too much of the Permian Basin. And a lot of that model data is actually supporting it. So let me go back. Let's see how well this kind of turned out to be. So this is the IBM model. So this is from 4 o'clock today. Here we are. It's about 7 o'clock. Is that the case? No, not necessarily. But as we go into the later part of the area, we are going to start to see, well, actually nothing. Nothing into the overnight hours. Exactly what we want to see in that scenario. About 10 o'clock in the morning, still no significant activity. Then we start to go into about 3 o'clock. Notice where the clouds are beginning to form, right on top of Fort Stockton. There we go. A couple of those storms popping up right along the Stockton Plateau, and they're just going to kind of linger around there, potentially moving out toward Big Lake, and then they just begin to fizzle apart, rain themselves out, and it's gone by around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Similar scenario to what we saw today. We're still looking at that risk for severe weather. It's going to be that level 2 risk. We're still looking at wind, we're still looking at hail, and we're still looking at that tornadic activity as well. Going into Thursday, well, as a matter of fact, on Thursday, still seeing almost a similar kind of setup into the afternoon and evening, but more so south of Fort Stockton. That's where we're seeing a lot of that activity, and we're going to continue to see a little bit more of that stuff push down south of Interstate 10, not necessarily north, fizzle out by around 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then we're good to go. All right, not too bad. We are also going to continue seeing that severe risk, level 2 slight risk, wind, hail, tornadoes, all in play tomorrow. Almost identical risk to what we're seeing today with an almost identical setup. What we have going on is the dry line just out to our west. It's kind of situated over top of Fort Stockton and Hobbs. We have the warm front that's moved up into the Texas Panhandle. We have a lot of strong wind coming in from the southeast. That's just going to fuel up a lot of these storms as they continue to move into the region. Get a little bit of strength, rain themselves out, and then we're good to go. Going into Thursday, much less of a severe risk. We're under that level 1 marginal risk. Still a little bit too early to tell what the main threats are going to be, but typically with a marginal risk, you're not going to get that low-end tornado threat. You will get that wind threat and the hail threat. Obviously, on a much lower scale, you could certainly see a couple of those pop-up severe storms, but not nearly as active as what we're seeing right now and what we're expecting to see for tomorrow. So Thursday, it starts to calm down as we head toward the end of the week, which is certainly going to be ideal. Here's going to be your impacts for tomorrow. From about 2 p.m. to about 9 p.m. Central Daylight Time, hail, strong gusts, and the chance for that isolated tornado. You need to watch out as you're driving. You want to protect your windshield in every way possible, so avoid driving through any of that hail. But you also want to make sure if you don't need to be driving, don't, because you do see that chance for some of that flooding to begin to take place across the area as well. You can lead to localized flash flooding, and I mean, even if you have a big pickup truck that we all love to drive out here, it's not going to be, great for your car to be driving through flood waters. I don't recommend it. All right, next 9 days, things start to calm down a little bit. We're still going to be on weather impact alert for tomorrow, for the rest of today, for tomorrow, and then potentially for Thursday. I'm not putting it there just yet because we're on that low end severe risk, up to about 30% chance for those showers and those thunderstorms. And then we go into the later part of the weekend, still that pop-up chance for some showers and thunderstorms. The ones on the weekend, though, some of those long range models are actually showing it stake out way out to our east. Before we let you go here, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm actually looking at come time for more so the later part of next week. That's the wrong graphic. Give me just 1 second here, guys. Let me pull up that graphic for you. Make sure to show you kind of what I'm looking at a couple of days out from now. Here we go. All right. Here's next couple of days. I already showed you that low end, that severe risk for Wednesday as well as Thursday. So let's go into Friday. Friday, we start to get into those long-term models. So maybe not superior accuracy. Around afternoon, maybe a little storm or two popping up around Fort Stockton and then pushing its way out. Most of this stuff is going to be very short-lived. I have about 10% coverage for Friday as a result. For your Saturday, maybe in the early parts of the morning, a little bit of activity, northern basin, and then going into the afternoon, that's where I have about that 20% coverage. And then by Sunday, a lot of the stuff is coming in the very early part of the morning, but is moving outside of our region. So unless we're talking very early Sunday morning, I left rain chances off of the forecast because most of the stuff is going to be gone by around 5 a.m. I mean, unless you really like being awake on Sunday at 5 a.m., there's no significant threat or reason to be scared for that. Monday, still trying to show some small chances for severe weather. Yeah, we're keeping an eye on a lot of that stuff. But keep in mind, most of this activity is going to be completely gone as we go into the later parts of next week.